I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of NYSAIS, on behalf of the NYSAIS Board of Trustees, on behalf of the Conference Planning Committee, and of course on my own behalf, welcoming you to our conference. We're very glad that you could tear yourself away from your schools. I know how hard it is to do at this point, and I hope that this is going to be a useful and restorative 3 days for you. I started asking about the history of our conference, and you know that NYSAIS was founded in 1948. So while I'm not sure of the exact date of the first Heads Conference, not sure when it was held, nor actually is anyone else with whom I spoke previously. There might be a couple of you in here who will know more about it. But we do know that the Heads Conference has always been held at Mohawk, and you can certainly see why. In querying my contemporaries, we've traced back as far as 1977, the conference was occurring, and we know it extends further. So there's a fuzzy data point there, but we've elected, or whether I have elected in my capacity as opening this conference, 1973 as the first conference for heads at Mohawk. Arbitrary, but it means that this is more or less the 40th annual Heads Conference, right? So those heads we still do. We didn't have a listing of the original purpose of the conference as well, but and thinking about it from the 80s forward, our theory was that the conference was a place where the heads could bring in external speakers that they wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. So that was one of the driving forces behind the conference, of course, along with spending time with your colleagues and friends. So looking at the conference today, how it's changed, the organizing principles have evolved somewhat over the decades, no surprise. And here's what we planners think about today and how this particular conference was shaped. So there are 4 threads that we imagine. The one is, of course, the big picture, some new horizons, bring in an outside visitor who will offer us some aspirational ideas, some provocative thoughts, someone who will challenge us and inspire us. And I think we're going to have that. Then there's the practical. What are topics that are useful to you right now, today? Something that you can take home on Friday and put into effect on Monday. And we hope that we've met those needs as well. The third thing we think about is our community. Spending time with fellow heads, getting to know new ones, catching up with folks you might see rarely during the school year, and then certainly spending some more time with the folks that you might see more regularly. But it's deepening those links that are the community of NYSAIS. So that's a third thread. And then, of course, the fourth thread is the personal, the opportunity to refresh and renew. It's the time for self, time for others. It might be reflection. For some of you, it will be action on the trails, or a combination of that. It's to restore, the idea of restoring our balance so that we head home on Friday energized for the week and the months ahead. So who is here in for this conference? So there are 189 members in NYSAIS, or at least there were at 9 a.m., and we're considering a few others, so that I don't think they're elected as yet. And there are just under 100 of our 189 members who have signed up for this conference. And for some of us, this is our nth time, or for others, it's our first time as a NYSAIS member, or first time as a NYSAIS school head. And so as I was looking at the list of attendees, I averaged, of those 100 attendees, I averaged 10 years of experience. So we have 1,000 years of experience in this room. So we have a lot to offer one another, and we should take full advantage of that. So I hope that's what you're going to do in these next days. And I'm going to turn it over to Josie, who's going to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Kate. And before I introduce our first speaker, I'd also like to recognize our other speakers joined us today, and that's who'll be here for the conference, Irshad Manji, who's sitting there, And welcome, Irshad. We'll be hearing from you tomorrow. And thank you for coming tonight. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Josie Holford. I'm at Poughkeepsie Day School and a member of the planning committee that is delighted to welcome Dr. Yong Zhao to Mohawk. And before I do that, I'd also, so I've done that bit. I wrote that in because I was afraid I was going to forget to welcome Irshad, so I actually wrote it into my script here, and then I did it at the top, and then I had to read it again. So Dr. Zhao is an internationally recognized scholar, author, and presenter, and I encourage you to check out his website, Zhao Learning, and read his books, online articles, and publications to understand the depth of his distinguished work in the intersections of learning, technology, and globalization. Dr. Zhao currently serves as the Presidential Chair and Director of the Institute for Global and Online Education in the College of Education, University of Oregon, where he is also a professor in the Department of Educational Measurement, Policy, and Leadership. He was named one of the 2012 top most influential people in education technology by the Tech and Learn magazine, and his latest book, World Class Learners, has won several very distinguished awards, and I do recommend reading it. It's a good read, and it's an important read. The prevailing metaphors in education are all about the numbers game, of being left behind and about racing to the top, and we're benumbed and bewildered and bamboozled by the drumbeat that insists that our education system is broken, and that we're losing the international competition for best in class. Dr. Zhao challenges the seductive power of this conventional narrative and proposes a new paradigm for education, one that celebrates and cultivates diverse, creative, and entrepreneurial talents. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Yong Zhao to our conference.
Thank you. That was a very nice introduction. I love you guys select a special person introduced with a British accent. And I still can't believe American cannot live without England still. I'm sorry about that. It's, anyway, so thank you for having me. This is it's a very interesting place, Mohawk here. It's very interesting. I just get lost all the time. And I've been trying to stay in my room, trying to understand what this place is, but staying in the room doesn't help, actually. Now, that was David Harmon. Where are you, David Harmon?
Right here.
He scares me because he saw me just 2 weeks ago in Vancouver, in Canada, and he came to remind me he was there, and he's going to check on me how exact I can replicate that kind of presentation. And so if I repeat anything, just forgive me.
A lot harder this time in your jokes.
All right, okay, no, I don't know. It's, and Dan Peters, where are you, Dan? It's, okay, you heard me 3 years ago. I hope I've made some adequate yearly progress and made some AYP. I want to start by, when I talk about education, I really think a lot about this picture. It's a really interesting picture. Some of you may have seen it. I actually took this at an airport in Cape Town, South Africa. When you get in for 20 hours, you get lost and you were waiting for your luggage. You're looking for interesting things to see. This is by the luggage claim, and just give the context. It is an advertisement of sort of some product. And I took it several years ago. I've never used it, but recently I've been using it in almost every context. Because after I showed this first time April last year in Brisbane, to about 2,000 Queensland teachers. And when I gave them that test, and he gave me some surprising answers, and I thought this was quite funny, it's quite cool. And I was just used to make fun of something else. But so I asked them what the product was. So can you guess? You guys are smart people. You're independent school heads. You have heads. You're independent, so it must be independent heads. You can come up with some answers. What do you think this product is? GPS. Which school are you from? That's the strict rational but boring thinking school, and you're right. You're so right. But that's not very imaginative, right? You know what the Australians, the first response, that they thought it was Viagra. I'm not joking. You imagine 2,000 people with Viagra. So it took me my Chinese mind a long time to figure out how you make the connection. How do you get this connection, right? GPS. You see this? I don't know. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now you read that. Okay. So this is the second panel of the advertisement, and you got the third panel of advertisement. It's really interesting. And so when I was thinking about this, I was actually simply trying to use it to make an analogy about GPS and schools. You know, if a GPS is a school as a technology, no matter how good you make the GPS, you still have to know where you want to go to deliver the results. So I think in education today, a lot of times, you mentioned about race to the top, mentioned about no child left behind. I think we are really very much lost in the outcome. So we're improving our schools, but we really don't know where we want to go. It's, I think every time you go to a conference, somebody's going to teach you to run your schools better, become more effective teachers, more effective leaders. It's like a more effective GPS. Without knowing really where to go, you don't punch in, right? So you can't be exact. So that's actually the kind of question I'd like to invite you to think about today and tomorrow in education. I think that's very important. Today is time to rethink about education outcomes. Yes, what outcomes do we want to have? What kind of talents and skills and knowledge we want to instill in our students? For about 100 years, we still don't question that. But as independent schools, you all have your own models, you all have your definition of what you try to strive to become in many ways. And how do we think about this? Now, of course, in the U.S., the federal government has been doing about, think about no child left behind. But it's never defined no child left behind in what. Don't you think, right? I mean, sometimes you want kids to be left behind in something. I love to be left behind in other things, some things, And Obama's new thing called Race to the Top, you still haven't seen Race to the Top of what? Right? You think if you combine those two, I always think Obama is succeeding George Bush. I think, because George wants nobody to be left behind, and Obama raised them to the top. Chinese view wants to get top, you can only go down. So it was all the way off the cliff, and no one is left behind. That's mission accomplished. That's how I view the whole idea. When you look around, the whole plan is about, now we have something called the Common Core, and many of you will be contemplating about the Common Core. The Common Core thinks the outcome of education is readiness for career and college. Career and college readiness. As if that's our outcome. Is that a viable outcome? Let's not ask even if it's going to get there, but is it a good outcome or not? Does that define a higher quality education? So this really brings me to my own question about my own children. I don't want to show you my own daughter. This is she's 15. That's my daughter. Real daughter. Okay.
That's about
right. My what?
That's about right for 15.
That's 15, right? Yeah. So whenever I think about education, I really think about her and my son about what kind of education I want for them. She went to a Montessori school when she was younger, then went to public school in Michigan, then we moved to Oregon, now she's in public school. And I kept asking myself, am I giving her a good education? She just brought home a report card. She's getting a C in calculus, which is very un-Chinese, and and she's getting A+ in history. That's horrible. You're not Chinese anymore. So is that okay? How do we know? And I don't know. Actually, seriously, I really don't. I question about this stuff, And then I have a son who is actually much more interested to talk about now because he has finished college already. So he went to public school, then he went to boarding school in New Jersey, in the Paley School over there. And I'm highlighting both ways. And he just graduated from the University of Chicago. And it was, again, he was very sad when he graduated, not because he was graduating, just because he had to explain to me. And when he graduated on June 15th, we had dinner in Chicago, that he said, so Dad, how am I going to tell your friends and your families when we go visit in China in July that I majored in art history? And that was tough for a Chinese guy. It is because in China, the Chinese view, if you do not major anything like medicine, finance or economics, you're not good enough for anything. So he was feeling really deeply depressed. And I said, really, don't worry about that. I said, it's no big deal. In terms of failure, we have all failed in some ways. You failed Chinese in that regard. But I said, I'm a failed peasant. I grew up in a village in China, Sichuan province. According to my village standards, I'm a complete failure. Cannot do anything farming. So my father still feels sorry about that. He's 85, lives in the village. I'm a complete failure as a peasant, as a farmer. So I said, I'm lucky. I'm out here. So it's I don't worry about that. But I said, now you spend a lot of my money, and went to schools and college. It's a very expensive. Chicago is a very expensive place. And the problem is that he was good enough to get in, but not good enough to get any money. No scholarship. That's kind of the most horrible situation. And to me, as a professor, you make enough money is not to qualify for financial aid, but not enough to not care about the money. So as I was holding him accountable for the money I spent on him, I said, no, don't worry about not majoring in anything else. I have one criterion for your successful education. That is, if you don't move back to my basement in Oregon, I call it success. So based on that actual analogy, I've been trying to say, I define a great education as one that keeps other people's children out of their basement. So if we work on that definition, we can think about how successful are we. I think you always should go back to, go back to your school, change your model to say, our education keeps the kids out of their basement. That's something that's actually very interesting to think about. College rating doesn't guarantee that. You know that, right? And just getting more debts. That's all it is. It's just, so we think about those things. I think there are three sets of things you have to think about to equip our children with so they can become out of basement ready. The ready is out of basement. One is that they can have a set of talents and skills and knowledge, or offer some services, some kind of things to other people, so they will be able to pay them for something. We call it employment skills, whatever that is, or you can be an entrepreneur, whatever you want to offer. Somebody can make you financially independent. And the second step would be you'll be psychologically healthy, so you don't have to call your mother every 3 minutes, or 5 seconds. That's not easy to get. Independence. And I know Daniel was going to China, one of these last year, national news in China. A lot of college kids go to college, they have to have their mother move in with them to accompany them. And one kid FedExed home the laundry that she had to do, those independent skills are not easy to cultivate. And then finally, you have to be nice enough to live in a neighborhood so people don't kick you out or in an apartment. That's called citizenship skills, right? So I would think you would all agree with it. But how do you equip them? So then we're going to talk about the first part. How do you develop the skills, talent that other people want on giving? And now our universities, our colleges are not doing a good job in that regard at all. And if you look, that's why I was talking to my son about this. This data, this is the recent data we have about college grads. 53%. That was last year. This year is not getting any better by any chance. We are actually, these are our best kids. Remember, they graduated, they paid, on average, they owe $23,000 in college debt. The U.S. has a college debt rising about $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. Imagine this. So most of them, the 53% actually, the 47% employed, including the chemistry majors, serving the bar, a drama major, I don't know, just work at Starbucks, all those. America now has the highest education level in bars now, and the bartenders are most educated ever in history. It's a lot of them. You probably know a lot of these people. I've run a lot of people. Say, my kids out, they're working somewhere. This is actually you can see it's an American problem, but it's not an American problem. In American problem, we can blame Bernie Madoff, or we can remember Bernie Madoff?
Yeah.
A scammer was such a really funny name, That's a pre-warning, you guys, I would never deal with anyone called Madoff, But you give money to someone called Madoff. It's a scary warning, but we'll follow him anyway. So you can't just blame that. You also cannot blame Policy, I know, we have Occupy Wall Street, all those, and we blame Obama. It's easy to blame Obama. It's easy. Obama I think he's responsible for everything. And there is a website called, if you don't like him, it's a website called thanksobama.com. Basically, like if you spill coffee in the morning, you can go make a click in the thanks Obama. But it's not an American problem. That's the challenge. Korea, we always admire Korea. Recently, Amanda Rayfin wrote a book, talk a lot about how Koreans have the smartest kid, right? She's all kind of crazy. Amanda's book is, she says, no, she doesn't understand this stuff. But anyway, so Korea, look at the president, said, skip college. We got too many of you guys. You only thing you know is how to go to college. There's nothing else you can do. China now graduates 6 million college students a year. Well, you don't have jobs for them. And you probably just look at the unemployment rate in Greece, in Spain, all European Union countries, in South Africa. I was just in New Zealand, the same thing, Australia. Globally speaking, we have actually, in terms of just simply people unemployed with high degrees, over actually supply of these people. But at the same time, ironically, we have millions of jobs unfilled. And globally speaking, a lot of employers are complaining the lack of talents they want to hire. So there's huge talent mismatch. So what is going on? For example, in China, we have so many college graduates. The biggest concern of international companies in China is lack of talents. A McKinsey report said less than 10% of China's college graduates are kind of qualified to work in international companies. That's very sad, right? So we have this problem. So what is the problem? This talent mismatch. What's going on with this? And what it is really a very simple problem is that we have been following one education paradigm. I'm talking about the mainstream, I bet you guys are all doing everything right. This is just talk about other people. So the other people are wrong. Okay, so the other people who are not in this room, those 80 people didn't show up today. That's their problem. So they have been following a wrong paradigm which aims to produce a different kind of products. And those products are no longer in demand. So imagine we used to make a lot of sausage. Now we don't like sausage anymore, we want bacon. That's the problem. So that's what our education, this is our education traditional paradigm. Our traditional paradigm is it's like a sausage making machine. It looks like this, right? Just you put everybody in, you crank them out, you press something. So this is our traditional paradigm. It's about homogenizing people, about reducing human diversity. Because we start by describing or prescribing what the society might need for employment, for adulthood. For some of your college prep schools, the employment skills can be substituted with whatever Harvard wants. Remember those days? You were producing the IAPs, the IBs, the SATs, the ACTs. That's what you're doing. We start by describing the end results. The end result always forms the core subjects. Some of the schools are more tolerant, nicer to others. You put up with some people. But most of the schools, in order to become a more effective sausage maker, you don't care about whoever wants to be. You can be a nice piece of ribeye steak, but I like sausage, I crank you into sausage. That's what we call human diversities were distractions. Human diversity, because you do not fit this one. Suppose you're a great swimmer, but if you don't do reading well, I'm going to hold you on phonics forever. You don't get to swim. That's what we do. So we reduce human. We look at individual diversity, cultural diversities. If they do not fit in this model, we think that's deficit. We're going to fix it. And this is a good model. Actually, parents love this model. Remember, you said at end of 12 years, you paid so much money. This is what you get. Remember, you have those binders of curriculum. Every grade is grade 1 we're going to learn this, grade 2 we're going to learn this, and none is a very narrow curriculum. And in the end, we are producing good sausages. Some of you, but we have different kinds of sausages. We got the Harvard sausage, the MIT sausage, you have NYU sausage, you got the community college sausage, you got the SUNY New Paltz sausage, but they are sausage. We measure them with their own very narrow set of dimensions. That's what we do. This model actually worked very well and was very necessary in the past. Very necessary. Imagine in the past, what kind of, in the past we needed, human society needed millions of people with similar skills. And we had, this is what our economy has been. If you look at the economy that started 1901, the decline of farming and fishing. Modern schools evolved around that time. Think about farming and fishing. You don't need anyone to be creative or great. Right? I grew up in my village. You don't need much passion to bring the sweet potato home. You don't need to talk to the corn. You don't need to do those things. It might help, but I never did. But it's, so in my village, we need a lot of people, millions with similar simple skills. So in my village, if they were doing the Common Core standards, we'd be driving the water buffalo. That's not English language arts, not math, but driving the water buffalo. That's our common village core, stuff like that. And that's how we do things. And then you think about moving to the industrialization. Millions of people work on assembly lines, or something like the assembly lines. Accounting, it's like assembly line. Remember those accountants, those people, or tax lawyers, all those people, similar skills. And in those times, creative people or extremely different people are not useful. Most of the time, are not useful. Imagine how Lady Gaga be useful in my village. I will try that. She wouldn't be useful in a Henry Ford factory either. All of those people. Would actually think about George Lucas, think about Steve Jobs. All of those crazy guys, they would be actually absolutely useless. It causes trouble. We can fire them. You just get rid of them. That's what. Because public schools or government, any school, actually most of the schools, our job is to create the core. And those extremely creative people, if they can survive, they're fine. We are not responsible for producing them. So like in the US, we have more of them than Asian countries, simply we put up with them more. Not because we create, so we're not ever responsible for those guys. So we're responsible for the middle. The middle is about reducing people. So this was very useful for a long time. Until the 1970s, things began to change. So when the jobs were taken over by machines or outsourcing. That's how it happens. So we have been trying to reduce the creative and trying to get rid of a lot of different people, but until 1970s, and we began to change, and that change really happened very rapidly. And the big change, I think, is look at this just as one example, is the decline of manufacturing jobs since the 1970s. Look at the red line. That's how just in one sector, manufacturing, we have lost millions of jobs. And to whom? I can say, I always find this funny. To whom? That's a big question, right? I remember last year, Obama and Romney's big debate. Do you guys still remember Romney? I really feel sad for those guys. There's so much money, nobody remembers now for 1 year. But anyway, why do you remember that? They had, I think, 5 debates, right? I watched all of them, and because I was just fascinated by this. Their core question is really about this: how to save, create American jobs. Remember, they were all talking about jobs, jobs, jobs. And their debate, they're trying to prove to American voters one simple thing: who hates China more? Because they think China took all the jobs. Remember that's all. How are we going to deal with China? I think they're all trying to do this thing. You love China too much. I don't love China, but anyway, so that's the whole thing. And it was interesting. Watch that thing. And it's not entirely true. The first jobs were outsourced not actually to China. Shoemaking, textile went mostly to Thailand, to Taiwan, to Singapore, to Hong Kong, to Mexico, all of this. And cars, now actually cars are made Windsor, in Canada, in Toronto, they took out cars. And those northern states, like I lived in Michigan for 15 years, we lost most of our jobs to Ohio and Tennessee. And then China took some jobs away from the Asian tigers, but China is losing those jobs now. 40% of Nike is now made in Vietnam. So China is blaming the damn Vietnam for taking our jobs away. We don't like them anymore. So the simple fact is, number one, globalization has resulted jobs moving around. It's very simple. If a job can be outsourced, meaning that can be done cheaper in other places, it will be done, no matter where that is, another country, another location, whatever that is. But there's another element, neither one of them mentioned, which is technology. Automation, robotics, machines have replaced a lot of jobs. And do you guys, some of you young people, never even remember this profession called bank tellers. Remember those guys? Do you remember those people? I found that very funny when I first came to this country. I didn't know you can get money from a machine. 1990s. I love getting money from a machine. But I never put my money into a machine. But ATM now is just. In fact, not ATM. You don't even carry it when you do online banking, right? And you fly, you check in online. You're costing American jobs. And then we have the tax lawyers, tax accountants. The first came H&R Block. Remember those guys? Where are they now? They've been replaced by TurboTax. And there is even worse. Actually, that was shockingly. America has a surplus of lawyers. Law schools have a hard time getting students now. America is still suing each other as much as possible. It's not that we have cut down our lawsuits, but we have excess of lawyers. How did that happen? I was actually in Pennsylvania recently talking about a law firm. I said, how did that happen? They said, well, we have machines. We don't need so many people to do research anymore. Remember those guys? A lot of law students were doing cases, volumes of the president and review. Now you can do search. Online, it's much easier. If you still need someone to write that kind of summary for you, send them to India. They can write it for you. It's much cheaper, easier now. So it's changing a lot. And also, I was talking to yesterday, the day before, maybe I forgot. But anyway, a driver from Newark to take me to Westchester County. I said, you really should get a new job. In 3 years, you'll be replaced by Google. Google will be driving your car. And he agreed. Actually, he's in this new profession. Speaking of that, I don't even know this new taxi service called Uber.
Oh, yeah.
That's how many jobs it's replacing. A lot of local limousine companies don't need dispatchers anymore. You don't need all those people. All of them replacing not simple jobs, quite complex jobs. Actually, a lot of them. So this has happened. What happens is very simple. When we lose jobs, we actually make ourselves more productive. Like the blue line shows, Americans become more productive in manufacturing. So this is a very simple fact. That is, we become more productive. What used to take one person to do, 6 person to do in 1910, takes now 1 person to do. 6 versus 1. So now suddenly we got 5 people in excess of making the real stuff. Then this is our biggest challenge. And the challenge is getting even worse. That is, America faces another thing, it's called the hollowing out of the middle class. We're not losing low-level jobs. We're losing the middle-class jobs. Over the last 30 years, we talk about the disappearance of the middle class. So you're seeing a bipolar growth. If you go to Silicon Valley, you'll see the top end is growing and the bottom end is growing. The top end, the traditional top end is the creative, the entrepreneurs. Zuckerberg is a good example. You guys are nearby. Zuckerberg, I think, came out of Ardsley or somewhere, sometime in Westchester County. I was in his middle school, public school. I didn't fit in very well. So imagine Zuckerberg, a guy, he got more or less, your broadcast. I hope he's not watching, but he's a kind of a sociopath in many ways, and couldn't get along with people. So that's a strange thing, right? It's a strange thing. And he, as a college dropout, and created a company, $100 billion company. On what? On making something to waste your time on. So he is the creator. He created a lot of value. We have always had people like that. Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, you think about all those guys. But those people created jobs, middle-class jobs. Like in Michigan, that's 50 years ago, if you graduated from 9th grade, you can have a very good middle-class job working for them. With good union protection, good medicine, good retirement, everything was great, and I lived in Michigan 15 years. I watched that decline since the 1990s. But Zuckerberg does not create jobs. I was looking at this market value. Market value of Facebook is about $100 billion. The market value of General Motors is about, I think, $32 billion. So Facebook's 3 times the size of General Motors. But Facebook employs about 6,000 people. versus General Motors, I don't even know how many people they employ. There's definitely more than 6,000 people in other countries. So that you got a lot of new creators. They create value, not jobs. Apple Computers now has about 43,000 workers for Apple. Apple is so rich, wealthy, they just don't have jobs. So that sector is actually growing, according to Richard Florida. Over the last 3 decades, the creative class has been on the rise. But at the same time, Americans have a lot of other jobs growing. That's the service sector. What I call those people who bring Zuckerberg his coffee. No matter how smart he is, he's still people need some bring coffee. But the service sector is not our job. So I would call the Americans' biggest problem for all of us as educators is how are we going to create the new middle class? We kept talking about our children have to get more education. But as the data shows, just more will not help you. Just more. We need a different kind of education. So let's ask the question, who will be the new middle class? Remember I said we're not responsible for the top class. We are not supposed to be responsible for the bottom class. We're supposed for the middle class. How do we maintain a large middle class? Then who will become the new large middle class? The traditional large middle class was people who doing routine jobs. And that's what in Michigan, the accountants, the lawyers, there may be a kind of difference, but still routine. That's where we have majors. We get them ready to fit in a job. I call that employee-based. We always look for a job to work in somewhere. And that's disappearing. This is something we should all keep in mind, that everything changes. This is Saudi Arabia oil minister said something I really like. He said, remember the Stone Age did not end because they ran out of stones. That's a very smart saying, right? Michigan never believed that. Michigan said, as long as the cars were going to go good. I said, no, you got to remember this thing. So things change. The new middle class, as I said, now, first of all, most economists said that the new middle class have to become what the past top class is. That is the creative class. So creativity, the economist, Richard Florida said, is not something unique, special anymore. It is job security. It is job safety. Everyone has to become creative. But we've never dealt with that. Our model was never about cultivating creativity. Creativity was never an interesting concept for educators. Actually, educators never liked creativity. I don't like creative people. They're just, think about kids like this. You like them. You try to get rid of people like this. You just, and creativity itself is quite, I was talking to Stephen about, it's quite destructive. Creativity is by nature to replace something, destroy something. And creative people always create things that other people have to adapt to. You say creation is always trouble for other people. And like iPhone. Whenever a new iPhone comes out, my daughter says, I gotta buy it. It's a problem for me. Whenever a new thing created, it was actually this. You guys know, Dan, this is for you, Beijing airport pollution. If you go to China, be careful. And so now with this pollution, we have a lot of debate about who is responsible. So you can say the government, drivers. I actually think this is the creative Henry Ford's problem. Ultimately, right? If we did not create this thing, would we have this pollution? Would we have drive this whole thing? We wouldn't, right? We have actually, I found out creativity is always troublesome. And then we actually have, I was looking at this creative problem. I love this one. This is actually a set of traffic lights created by some very creative civil engineers in China, in Chongqing. And agility, you remember this one? This is in, I think, I don't forget where is this now. This is in England. This is the most amazing roundabouts. Swindon.
My hometown.
Right, did you go?
I cycled round that roundabout to go to school.
I'm glad you were able to get out of here. Okay, that's right. I wasn't. So creativity was actually for a long time discouraged. Creativity, this is in Google Books. If you want to find out when that concept was talked about or how often they were written about, in the millions of books in Google, you can say creativity was not really written about until after 1920s. And the number of books about creativity rose dramatically after the 1980s, really 1990. So that's how it happens. Creativity, we don't write up, we never talk about it, it's not important. So those creativity were accidental. But we have been writing about children for a long time. If you look about the mentions of children versus the creativity is very low. We don't talk about creativity. Actually, in fact, what we do, most of books about children, if you read about them, is about how to discipline them, how to manage them. Classroom management, discipline, all those, discipline with heart, all those kind of stuff. But it's still about really suppressing creativity. And our school model, the sausage making model, actually does a very good job in doing that. This is from George Langsdale in 1970s. He applied divergent thinking skills to children. He measured thousands of children and found when children are 5-year-old, that's where you start your school gate, right? That's come over here. 98% of them are creative at the genius level. So all children are practically creative in some way when they come to our schools. So after 5 years in our schools, when they reach age 10, we've successfully got rid of 60% of them. We've got 32% left scoring the same level. Give them, the fourth grade slump in creativity is that university, you have to call Kathy? Okay, no, not. I'll call later. Okay. That's from Australia. We are running a conference in Vegas. I'm recording later. Not now, right? Okay, so, and then by the time we reach age 15, 10% is left. That's what the decline of creativity is really after starting about 3rd, 4th grade, we decline a lot of our creativity. And by the time you reach about, our age, 44%. With age 44, 2% left. So sometimes I always found in ours, you guys talk about, that person is so creative. He or she is out of the box thinker. I said, no, that's not creative. If you're out of the box thinker, you already talk about the box. Real creative people have no box to think about. Whether inside or outside, they don't even think about the box, So we always think, well, I'm outside the box. No, you still have a line there. That's bad. We're not very creative. When once we get to 44, 2% of us. And but creativity has a chance after retirement. So you have something to look forward to. When you retire, and the non-percentage of creative people bounce back. I was reading again that President George Bush is a great painter now. Yeah. If George can, paint, imagine that. So this is quite good to think about. It's amazing. Now, so creative people has to become a part of the new middle class. That is, everybody has to maintain to become creative. So this is the first challenge. But we have lost many of them. Okay, that's the first. Another element of the new profession, we have this creative class, but the creative class also involves another type. We call the traditionally undervalued talents. Traditional undervalued talents, that sounds very cool, sounds very academic. But traditional undervalued talents become valuable, simply means that traditionally useless people have become useful. Think about Kim Kardashian is a good example. Right, Kardashian is a good example. You guys know Kim Kardashian? Yeah, you do? I actually met her. So I'm so proud, But she didn't meet me. I just met her. How is that possible? It's true. I was in a hotel in Melbourne last year, September, and doing a conference for Trans-Tasmanian Conference, New Zealand people, and this is Crown near a casino. I didn't know what she was doing there. I don't even know who she was, actually. I only met her because I was in the elevator and she was escorted by a group of people that I was kicked out of the elevator. I was happy about this. I asked who is this? Someone said that's Kim Kardashian. And as Kim is here. Then walk outside, all these people, teenagers, camped outside in the lobby and outside. So I was very curious. I had no idea who Kim Kardashian was. So I called my daughter, and she's my pop culture consultant. Very, she knows everything about this. I said, so Athena, who is this Kim Kardashian person? I said, that's Kim Kardashian. I said, why are people camped outside waiting for her signatures? My daughter said, she is a celebrity. I said, well, celebrity for what? And she said, nothing. And I said, okay. So that's nothing. It's fabulous, right? Nothing. She is famous for nothing. But. And now here you go. She's not in her parents' basement. So she must have been offering something to somebody who is willing to pay her to be independent. Do you think that you may not like it, and you may not like it, you just, oh yeah, and then I began to look for more of those nothing, celebrities. Now, Honey Boo Boo is another one. You don't know. You don't know her? Oh, come on. Search for it. Here comes Honey Boo Boo. That's a young abomination, right? Honey Boo Boo. Abomination, young, what they call them a hillbilly, redneck, beauty pageant, whatever that is. She wrote a book. This young girl, she basically being famous for being dumb. That's what people talk about. People are actually, oh, so low class. But actually, I've been studying her. It's fun. She wrote a new book and about how to discover your talent. She said everybody has some Honey Boo Boo in them, and the subtitle is how to recognize your talent. Not joking. This is real stuff. So now you began to study this. How did this happen? How did this happen? Now, don't pass any judgment yet. How did this happen? Is simply speaking, from an economics term, we have moved from the age of necessity to the age of abundance. And that shift makes us to consume different products and services. And the new different products and services we consume today may not be valuable at all, but they make use of different kind of talents. How many of you play video games? You don't. You're not a crowd. The Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, you do, right? They just released new version. It's like $1 billion. That little video game, $1 billion. A few guys in Scotland, they're not from a lot of holy water. They're just doing these games. It's amazing. But how useful is that? Depends on what you think about, right? So then you think about movies. Are they really necessary? Novels, writings, music. So you expand all of it. iPhone. I kept telling my daughter, this is not necessity. You won't die because if you don't have it. So here's some example for you to appreciate the idea of traditionally undervalued talents become valuable. I live in my village in China is the age of necessity. Every product we have there has to do with your physical survival, physiological survival. America as a society was like that 100 years ago. 80% of Americans' families' income went to necessities: food, housing, and shelter. That's to say, clothing, children, housing, and I hope so. But now today, most Americans, on average, we spend less than 50% of our income on necessities, on the three things. We spend the rest on something else. What do we spend on? Yesterday, my friend drove me up here and said, I spent $30 a month on OnStar. You know what OnStar is? It's a guy. I said, why do you need that? You drove there. What do we used to do? We used to ask somebody if you get lost, right? And we know OnStar. You spend how much money going to theaters, to music, all those things. So let's take that as an example. I want to use something, even food, as a necessity has dramatically transformed. In my village, there's no product or services surrounding food that's intended to convince people in my village that they should eat. Nobody spends it. But did you notice in the US, most developed countries, most of our energy or our products around food has something to do with convincing you that you should eat this way, eat in my way, eat here. Remember that's how many food commercials do you watch on TV? Food commercials on TV, on the radio, and a billboard, all those things. And what talents do we need to create them? Nothing to do with driving the water buffalo. Right? It's acting, writing, singing, visual arts, communication, and collaboration, all kinds of creative stuff, dancing, all of those things have no value in the age of necessity, They've gained value. And also look at the inventiveness of our food. Again, do you think we really need 126 varieties of cereal? Do you go to the grocery store? Do you look at those things? What are you buying? What are we buying in those things? We're buying people's creation in those things. Then you look at the boxes. Look at the box. It's shocking, how the box matters. In generic version costs $1 less. No, we like this box. I mean, especially kids. My daughter the other day brought home this big can, $3 or $5 of green tea. I said, Athena, we get fresh green tea all the way from your hometown from China. Why do you have this? No, this has a little can, looks very nice. I don't want that. That's creativeness. Now restaurants. The more money you pay, the less food you get. Isn't that pathetic, right? Is that what are you buying? You're buying a chef. Chefs have become artists. The restaurants, we're buying a lot of excess stuff. So we're simply consuming something we call cultural, spiritual, and psychological products and services. And this are not physiological. So that's why Kardashian is a cultural experience. You may not like it, but that's part of the meal. So, and after you just eat, we get another $1 billion industry for you to lose what you just eat. You notice that? I don't know if you've ever studied the whole weight loss industry. Do you notice about this craziness? It's the talents that consume. Dr. Atkinson, I was joking about this with a Somali tax driver who was in Denver. I said, do you think Dr. Atkinson would be very useful in Somalia? No, of course not. Right? Just think about it. But we are talking about lose this stuff. Do you notice that? And the athletic clubs, and some athletic clubs, the ambience worth a lot more. My father would never understand. You would pay a fee to go someplace to lose the calories you just had. But that's huge, right? It's huge. But the talent, what talents do we have here? So most of it is acting, right? Most of it is acting, music, art, and sometimes it's interpersonal skills. So if you look at Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, we are moving away from the traditional, the routine type of things, the logic, the quantitative, the verbal, towards what Daniel Pink calls the right brain direct thinking skills. But it's not only right brain, it's both right brain and left brain. Basically speaking, we have arrived at a time, the spectrum of so-called useful and valuable talents and knowledge have dramatically expanded. But our education haven't. Remember, we're still talking about the core. Some of you will be nice, have a broad curriculum, but you never, and if a kid is not good, they come to this kid in 9th grade, I got to focus on SAT, so I have to get out of band. You hear the kids talk about this. Violin is nice, but, we do those things a lot. We never think about that. We all think those as peripheral, something nice to have. There's another element besides creative and unique talents, diversity of talents. Every talent today, when developed with the next element, it will be useful. If Lady Gaga is useful, anyone can be useful. Just remember this one. The next element is, I call the entrepreneurial spirit. The entrepreneurial spirit is something, again, our education, traditional education, is trying to get rid of. We want our students to obey orders, to follow directions, to comply with our directions, what everyone tells them. Remember your children, after about 3rd, 4th grade, they learn to be a good employee. They ask the teacher, what do I have to do to get an A? Remember, they want to say what Harvard wants to apply to get in. Remember those things? They want specific descriptions. I'm meeting the expectations. I'm getting a 2400 on SAT. Those are good employee performance indicators. And this actually is great. That's what we need. But none of that has anything to do with what if there's no jobs for you? Right? What are you going to do? You're looking for jobs. You're looking for something. Here we go. We need job creators. That's the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur spirit. That is someone, you can be creative, you can have talent, but unless you have the mindset that you are responsible to solve problems, you are not responsible just to carry out other people's orders. That's the entrepreneur spirit we have missing in our schools because we educate them. When people ask about how the Chinese differ from others as a Chinese, for thousands of years have been teaching the employee mindset that we comply with the emperor. The emperors want to good test scores, we give them, they hand us good jobs. That's what we've done. So the Chinese, we practiced for 2,000 years. We know very well how to do this thing. You will never beat the Chinese in test taking. But some of you guys try, but it's hard. Now, so the entrepreneur spirit, what's the entrepreneur spirit like? It's this is something we have to think about. The entrepreneurs basically is like this. We have traditional business entrepreneurs, people who see opportunities, start a business, sell something. But the entrepreneurs today are not confined to that. We have people who choose to be a social cause. Many of you are social entrepreneurs. You are advocating for something different. You're solving a problem. And today, social entrepreneurs cannot be operating as traditional charitable organizations. You cannot do that anymore because you people just do not donate money to you anymore. You have to do something. You want to give shoes to kids in third world countries. You try to sell a shoe, and every 10 pairs of shoes you sell, you give 1 pair, donate to them, right? You sell water, you turn to water the same way, and many different ways to do it. We also need intrapreneurs. These are the millions of jobs unfilled. They were looking for creative entrepreneurs within an organization, because that's what intra means. But we give them employees. At Apple Computer, the one thing they always say is that if you want to be managed, you are not employable. If you want to be managed, you are not employable. Simply because I don't have time to give orders. If you look at Google, all those guys, they're looking for creative people. Then finally, we need the public sector, policy leaders to become, we call them policy entrepreneurs. They have to think and act entrepreneurially. The last several weeks, did you notice the U.S. government was shut down? You notice that, right? It was fascinating to me. I kept watching. And people will be complaining, both like, we have such diverse opinions, polarized views. No, America has always been polarized. America has always had diverse views. We never agree with each other. That's America, it's supposed a democracy is supposed to be. But we used to have some entrepreneur leaders who don't give up, who negotiate, who bring things together. Today, we don't do that anymore. We just think about entrepreneur, you want to do some business with your dog. Would I say, I'm not talking to you anymore. If I want something from you, I better talk to you. That's the entrepreneur thinking skills. That's something we need to train. So overall, if we read my book, you will see, today's entrepreneur's idea is demanded, required of everybody. It's not just one person. So everybody's the startup spirit. So creative, unique talents plus this entrepreneur spirit. You are not producing job creators, job seekers. You're making job creators. So what kind of people are entrepreneurs? This is what we think about. You probably noticed in the past 5 years, just very recently, people suddenly began to pay attention to entrepreneurs, suddenly paying attention to non-cognitive skills. The rise of the non-cognitive, just very recent, people talk about great persistence, people talk about those things, along creativity. So there's some of the stuff we try to track. Entrepreneurs, you can say, are they born or they're made? Well, they're both. It's nature via nurture. That not is you're maybe born with something, but nurture, education can enhance or suppress. So that's what we have. We talk about confidence, we talk about risk taking. So we want this. Now there's another way of thinking. People say, oh yes, we want creativity, we want entrepreneurship, but we're still fixing education towards more standardization. You notice that? We're still trying to say, we got testable, and that's why US we're doing common core, all of those things. Because people believe we can have both. What I'm going to show you is that it's very hard to have both. And we can be great. We want to this and that. No, it's not very possible. We have one of the things I learned about America is this thing called you cannot eat your cake and have it, or is the other way around? Or no free lunch, something like that. Right? Things always come at a cost. And this is what they call the side effects of education, which is seldom talked about in education. In medicine, if you look at medical research, always talk about side effects. When you go buy Tylenol, you read the warning label, can cure your headache, but it cause a bleeding stomach. Right? Have you seen that? Have you done that to education? Have you given out warning labels to your children? To parents, you say, if you come to my school, you get this, you won't get that. Whatever, we try to be everything. We want to do this. Oh, creativity, you got that. Music, yes, you do. Sports, you do. No, we don't. And there's some early reading programs. I can assure you, a lot of early reading programs when they come to sell at your company, at your school, and the companies at Pearson or McGraw-Hill or whoever comes to you, they always show you how fast they can improve kids' reading scores, IRM, RC. They always show those things. If they're honest, they should always tell you, this can improve your kids' reading scores, but may cause your children to hate reading forever. Right? This is a passion. This is interesting. We should always think about this. Well, it's very simple. Why do we have side effects in education? Number one, time. If you only have 24 hours a day, if you spend your time staying home, be hooked on phonics, you won't have time to go fishing, hang out with your friends. Hanging out with friends may be necessary to develop social capital, to learn how to hang out with other people. That's one of this. You can't, one of the things people talk about China. Shanghai students are so immersed in learning. That's why it's score number one. When you are so immersed in learning, preparing for the test, you don't learn how to do your laundry. That's why you have the FedEx at home. That's obvious. That's why 25% of Chinese students enrolled in IBs drop out after the first year from China. It's because they can't handle, they don't know how to deal with other people. So the second reason for side effects is that sometimes the outcomes we love just do not go together. Compliance is not the same as challenging authority. If you get in the habit of finding answers fast, with standardized testing rewards, that's finding answers fast, you are not going to get the same habit of asking questions. Raising questions is not rewarded. You say, well, and that's what, and when you take SAT, which we take a quarter of a point away by making the wrong choice, that's not a way to encourage risk taking. Basically, a lot of that times, right? You think about those things. And now, of course, Tony Wagner talks about this. Think about collaboration. Our schools never encourage true collaboration. We still measure every student's product as by one person. If you truly collaborated, we call that cheating. Now, think about my daughter, and I'm thinking about the collaboration. True collaboration is really outsourcing. It's basically let other people do something you're not good at or you don't want to do. That's called, like, I can give an example. When I was growing up in my village, I was so small. That's why I'm a failed peasant. I was so small, and I got bullied all the time. Until I went to school, I outsourced my personal protection to big guys. They would fight for me, I did their homework for them. It's collaboration. That's called collaboration. But now if you're measuring students by doing the whole thing, you can cause cheating. My daughter is very good at English writing. She has a friend in Michigan, a Korean girl who is very good at drawing. So many they do book reports. So my daughter would do the English for the other girl, the other would do drawing. So I think that's perfect in outsourcing, called global supply chain. But that's not just encouraging schools. You notice that? And then the third reason, of course, schools only have so many resources. When you spend a lot of resources on making sure our kids get the basics right, you will not have time to do the other things, especially when times are hard. Right? You make choices. And the final thing is that people, if you think of multiple intelligences, multiple intelligence doesn't mean you really are talented in every way. Multiple intelligence means basically, if you are talented in some way, you may be bad at something else. So don't think you are just genius in everything. No, every genius has an extreme weak points. So that's what happens. If you're extremely talented in one area, you are really going to be really bad at something else. So by the same token, if you're really bad at something, you must be good at something else. You just don't know it. Okay. Yeah. So in those cases, if you try to force people to achieve the same level of others, that person will take a lot more effort to achieve the same middle level. So you may have successfully made a mediocre reader. You could have sacrificed a great singer or dancer or painter. You might. That's kind of things to think about. You might think about dyslexia. With them, you in special school. I think about dyslexia used to be considered a major disability. Well, they just have different brain wiring, like neural wiring, different visual perception abilities. They have trouble perceiving 2D spaces, right? That's how hard I'm reading. But they have great depth perception. So they can look at the stars much better, identify star patterns. That's why they make great astrophysicists, or they make great 3D artists. So today, when we talk about dyslexic people, do you want to fix them as a poor reader? You want them to go become a great, astrophysicist? Of course, 100 years ago, there was no job as an astrophysicist. I kept thinking about that. That's why 100 years ago it's a disability, because there's no job for those guys. Other than being a witch, you can look at stars. That's not a real job. So let me actually bring you some data to show this how this happens. Now this is international data. I'm trying to get more local data. Not yet. They're not available because most people don't measure the other things. There are a few international studies do measure both ways, the cognitive and non-cognitive. Some will use confidence as an example. Confidence is a good example. Is that this is the study called the TIMSS, called Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. It also got the study as in 1964 called FIMS, First International Mathematics Science Study, and so then 1990s called Third. Then they become so popular because it's influenced America's math education. So they retained this acronym called TIMSS, but changed the T into trends, no longer thirds. So just that's how it came about. Anyway, this study measures 4th grade and 8th grade math, and also asks questions about confidence, interest, and enjoyment of students. So as usual, 2003, I just picked 1 year, American students scored way below Asian kids. Singaporeans, Korean, Japan, Hong Kong, all of those guys. But then on the question about confidence, you can imagine American students, well, they were, despite their ignorance, but they were extremely confident. So American students outconfident everybody. And so this is the question we all have to think about, is that how did that happen? So this pattern is global. This pattern is so global that if you look at some of the negative correlations of this 2003 data, that students score higher in countries with students with higher scores have lower confidence, lower enjoyment. This is not only 1 year. It's global but historical as well. That's 2003. In 2011, there's another study, TIMSS repeated. So you have the same result. You look at the top 5 countries, you got Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan. They have great scores. East Asian countries, test scores. Look at the third column, confidence. They're much lower than Anglo-Saxon countries. You notice that? So this pattern repeats all the time. And the same thing with on the PISA, you have heard about the PISA. Finland has always been the great country. Finland students have no interest in science. They score well, but have no interest. Imagine, I can force you to score well. I cannot force you to be creative. With this one. So they've lost the lack of interest, got Finnish very nervous, and PISA has this huge negative correlation. The same way, interest and non-cognitive skills and test scores. So countries have high scores. So how do we explain this? What does this mean to all of us? This is what I call the side effects. So the Americans, of course, interpret in a different way. The Americans said, our students are too happy for their own good. They are so confident, but they're so bad. So why are they so confident when they're so bad? Because they just don't know how bad they are. So for America to improve its math education, we got to get our kids feel bad. And how do we do it? Well, why don't they know how bad they are? Because we have lower standards. We don't test them often. That's our conclusion in the US, the policymakers. So to improve America's math education, let's increase the rigor get algebra 2 in every, in the 8th grade, and test them often, and not only test them often, report their test scores to their parents and local media, and compare their scores to kids in countries they don't even know existed. And that's what we're doing. So we bring them in, and we're driving. That's how since 1990s. That's America's so-called standards-based education movement. Do you notice that? That whole thing. That's why we're trying to drive the whole model. Asian countries took a very different approach. Asian countries said this is the media response to their poor test scores. Asian countries, look at Japan. This is 2012 media. They never talk about scores. Our kids have no enthusiasm. Hong Kong children score #1 in reading, tied with Russia. They said they have no interest. So this is, by the way, New York, Joe Klein. Do you know Joe Klein? I saw him once, several years ago in New York. I said, why do you want kids to read when they're not interested? What are you going to do this? He said, I don't care, as long as they can read. I said, but they don't want to read. I said, how does anyways, that's you can't reason with Joe Klein. But anyways, so that's the whole idea here is about the non-cognitive drives, underpins creativity, entrepreneurship, and individual talent. So all of this actually has some meaning in reality too. Countries, for example, under PISA, with higher math scores indicated by the red bars, have lower entrepreneurial confidence. This is my data, analyze this, And countries with higher PISA scores in reading, math, and sciences have lower entrepreneurial activities in general. Now, there are many reasons to cause this. I don't have time to explain all of them. But overall, is to say, #1, this can draw one conclusion. The test scores do not predict anything about nation success, and you've learned already test scores have cognitive skills do not predict individual success either. Now, so all of this happens in one case. So what does this mean? Well, this basically means in the past, this is the past data. This is not the future, this is the past. In the past, American education has always been criticized in terms of test scores. You hear today still, American education is in decline, is getting worse every day, right? You heard that, but I can tell you American education is not in decline, is not getting worse. It has always been horrible. It has been horrible for a long time. But I know it's how horrible have we been? Let me actually show you this. How bad have we been? 1960s, 1964, America's 12th graders ranked 12th out of 12 countries in the first international mathematics study. You can't get worse than that. Again, that's a good start point. So if anyone says we are getting worse now, we've never been good. American education in terms of measured by test scores, by curriculum, by kind of uniformity, we've always been bad. There was no good old days in education. It's always that we've been horrible for over half a century. But why is America still here? Why is America still here? I know that's the Canadians always question that. Why? Because actually, many people question, you guys, George Bush, you're still there. But anyway, that's test scores. So if education mattered, why are we still here? Not only here, but according to Obama, is that we still have the largest economy. This is Obama's State of the Union address. By the way, if you check any statistics, these are true. They're actually factual, as I said, more factual than some of his other facts. It's very true. How do we explain this? Basically, that's the side effects. So American education, many ways, we talked about this in the past. America was trying to be a sausage maker, but became a bad sausage maker. So American education is a bad sausage maker because we allow independent schools. In China, if it's an independent school, you have to operate under Chinese national curriculum. To advance for tests, you still have to take national test. So everything has to follow. And then, so America has this local autonomy. We used to have 200,000 school districts, local control. We also have this horrible a kind of flexible, forgiving education system. America has the most forgiving system. You know, if you fail elementary school, you can go to middle school. Finish high school, get a GED for you. You know, you can come back anytime. So we did not have a lot of standards. So that's when we graduate with a high school diploma, we don't know what it means. So that's horrible in many ways as a sausage maker, but it gives enough space for us to tolerate people like Lady Gaga, like Steve Jobs. So I always, America is a broken sausage maker that makes some bacon on the side. But it's accidental. All that have saved America in the past 50 years are those crazy people who kind of get leaked out of the system. The Asian system is a perfect system, but everyone goes through. So very successful, very effective. So Asian countries, again, then we go to China, they do not teach less effective about creativity, or we don't do better. American schools, nobody, as I showed you, does any better. There's always the same. We try to kill creativity. So Americans do not teach creativity better yet. We just killed it less successful than Asian countries. So however, that's the past. For the future, this is what I'm going to spend tomorrow with you. What do we have to do for the future? This is the past accident. Accidents have to turn into design, have to turn into systems. To truly get our kids out of our basement, we have to move to a new paradigm. The new paradigm I would call expansion. Is recognize the talent of every individual to enhance their strength, not face their deficit. And our schools have the capacity, the cultural capital, the financial capital to do this. If you think your school, where the school is going, is to personalization, is to have elements of three major elements. This is allowing me to spend a lot of time talking about them tomorrow. A personalized educational pathway and experience, more student autonomy, a product-oriented learning, kids learning by making things from first grade on or kindergarten on, and seek that in an international way to cultivate a global companies, which we haven't done. Our schools need to change in terms of what personalized curriculum, the how a pedagogical shift is product-oriented learning, and the where our campus has to be globalized. Because our students have to develop global competence to avoid what Americans' view is right now. Is that true? No, that's not true. I can give this to you. This is the Americans' view right now. We have to rethink about all of this. That's how we think. But
We have to get there.
I have so many cool pictures you can do what you do. So just to end this conversation is to say, because I know we have other things to do. So what we have to do really to cultivate our children so they can stay out of our basement. Globally competent, creative entrepreneurs. And how to do this? Just buy the book, you'll be fun. Just forget about the whole company. Buy the book, you'll be taken care of. Well, this is the cookbook to the future. No, I never cook anything. But a lot of the slides I have is on my website already. Like Jose was suggesting, get on the website. But really, tomorrow, I'm going to explain the three elements, how we are actually going to implement in our schools, how we personalize, how do you globalize the campus, what kind of product development we can have in our schools. So to end very quickly, if your child has talent, can become great, and have a global perspective, they will stay out of the basement. Thank you.